Sometimes the heart speaks louder than the spoken words of prayer. Rachel Emunah passed away on the 11th of Cheshvan, and she taught us the power of silence. Rachel provided her older sister Leah with the secret signs that Yaakov had given her, allowing her to marry Yaakov in her stead, undetected. Lavan's ploy would likely not have succeeded without Rachel's act of selfless compassion, but the Midrash specifically commends her for her silence, and this quiet fortitude was passed down to her descendants, Binyamin, Shaul, and Esther. We learn a lot from her silence, and we also learn so much from what she does say. All of her spoken words are related to her being a woman who wanted to become a mother. In fact, the very first words that she says are to her husband, Yaakov, and she says, Hava li banim, give me children, if not, I will die. For Rachel, childlessness was akin to death. When leaving her father's home to finally make that trip with the family to Eretz Canaan, she hid his trafim, the idols, in the camel which she sat upon. And it's not surprising that the first plausible excuse that comes to mind as why she couldn't get up for her father to discover the trafim was also related to her fertility. It was a topic that was constantly on her mind. So she told her father, I am in a womanly way, ki derech nashim li. And it surely kept her father away. The idea of Rachel's prayer, davening, beseeching God for children, is something that we are seen alluded to in the text, in the psukim. But we don't hear the words of Rachel's prayer to become a mother. Much like Hannah in the Mishkan, many generations later, when her lips are moving and no words are being heard. After Rachel suggests to have children vicariously through her maidservant Bilhah, and Rachel names the child, she acknowledges that Hashem has heard her voice in Bereshit, Perek Lamed, Pasuk Vav, but we're left without the text. We don't know what she said, but we have a very clear sense of where her heart is. When finally Hashem opens Rachel's womb in Bereshit Perek Lamed, in chapter 30, verse 22, it refers to God hearing her. But we're not told the details. We're not told of this, the pleas, the silent prayers, the unshed tears. The deepest prayer is a personal prayer of the inner heart. Rachel wanted more than anything to become a mother, and that's the relationship she sought after with a passion. She hoped for fertility treatments to work with the Dudaim we see in Bereshit, again in Perek Lamed, Psukim Yudaled, 14 through 16. And she was so focused on motherhood that when she finally became a mother and gave birth to her first son, Yosef, she was already longing for more children. And she says, she called him Yosef, and she says, Yosef Hashem li ben achir. She asked for more. She was so determined and focused on this one thing. Of course, in the tragic story, when she becomes pregnant with her second son, Binyamin, she dies in childbirth and never gets to mother Binyamin. This concept of her longing for children and her silent prayer very much connects to this concept that the Rambam brings up, and Maimonides talks about avodah shebalev, worship of the heart. This phrase of worship of the heart is the title of a book of essays written by Rav Soloveitchik, where he presents the notion that we need to discriminate between two forms of prayer. He talks about the idea of this sort of external, physical, formal act of prayer, a reciting of a fixed text, and all of that serves as a medium to the dimension of the inner experience, the worship of the heart, which is the genuine act of praying and the very essence of the mitzvah. In his words, he refers to the inner dimension of the heart as a great passionate yearning, one which is found in a movement of the soul rather than performance of the lips, in an inner longing rather than a tangible performance, in silence rather than in loud speech. And I think this perfectly describes what we see in Rachel Emunah, the experience of her longing, her yearning in silence. And as a mother, mothers are always praying for their children, even when they aren't aware of doing it. It is a constant. And so much of active mothering, of parenting, is holding a quiet space for a child, being a safe harbor to allow them to share their emotions, to help them feel seen and heard and soothed. And sometimes the best way to do that, as much as we all have our words of wisdom and our thoughts to share, sometimes the best way to do that is in the stillness, in the quiet, to be fully present without words. And that quiet connecting of two hearts occurs well before the child is even born, as the mother feels her child's heart, hears the child's heart at the first ultrasounds, and the two hearts connect from a very, very early stage. A mother's silent prayers protect and build her home. The emotional intelligence and sensitivity a mother can and should have with her children certainly include conversation, but it is the cocoon of quiet which safeguards it. Chochmat nashim banta beta. The deep yearning of a mother-to-be is often in the silent tears, the longing to become a home, both physically and emotionally, for another's heart. And when we think of Rachel Emunah in Yirmiyahu, Perek Lamed Aleph, and her relentless crying after her death, she cries as a mother of Israel. And while in her lifetime she said, "Bring me children or I will die," in her death she says, "Bring back my children." And many of our children have been brought back from enemy hands. But Rachel is still weeping, waiting for them all to come home.